Okay, Women's FIFA World Cup final, Spain-England. It's finished 1-0 to Spain. I think the better side on the day has won. England were not at the races today. I think that's a fair assessment. But only one goal in this game. The amount of chances created by both sides, there possibly should have been more goals. I think Spain actually created more chances. It was very obvious England didn't look at the races today. How much energy and emotion they put into those previous games. You know, the Australia win, they left it late. The Colombia win, they came from behind. But I said from the game against Haiti at the beginning of the tournament, I haven't watched every game this time because of obviously work commitments, but I said at the beginning of the tournament, England beat Haiti 1-0. They just did not look fluid, they did not look fluent, and they looked clunky. And they looked clunky today. And you have to look at the impact of losing 4 key players from the final at the Euros last year. That has had a massive impact on how this team approaches attack and build-up play. It's very, very obvious when you take out, key players in defence, midfield and in attack. It does have an impact. And it was very noticeable the impact that had on this squad. Even though they've won some games brilliantly, it was very noticeable that the formation they were using was different, their tactics were slightly different, and they looked clunky. Spain, this is an England side that beat Spain last year. Spain, since last year, they had 9 players boycott the squad last year. And that's to do with the coach and the federation, and there is some division within this Spain setup. Even though they've won the tournament, there is some division within the setup. 9 players that boycotted last year are back in the squad. England are missing 4 or 5 key players from last year that are out the squad. So there's been a lot of squad turnover for both sides. England's is through injury, retirement and illness. Spain's through dropping their boycott. So it's mad. The game itself, both sides had chances. Spain had more. Both sides have hit the woodwork. We hit the bar. Spain hit the post. The goal itself by Olga Carmona, that comes from Lucy Bronze making an aimless, pointless run with no end product. If you are a wing-back, go forward. If you are an attacking wing-back and your goal is to go forward and create, drive in a forward momentum, not a cross. And I think that played into Spain's hands. She's out of position. She loses the ball. There is no end product to this. This is a run with no purpose. I hate it when players do this. And it happened a lot today with England. There was a run with no purpose. They were running into, areas where in the midfield, they were losing the midfield battle. Lucy Bronze has left her position on England's right, ended up on England's left, lost the ball. Where does the ball go? Where she's meant to be positioned defensively. It's a very good finish by Olga Carmona. I have to admit, it's a very, very good finish. And it's 1-0 at half-time. Now, yes, we've hit the bar. Spain hit the post on the stroke of half-time. Only 1 minute of added time. I'm going to mention this later on. 1 minute of added time at the end of the first half. It was a very high-intensity game, not a lot of stoppages in the first half. Second half, however, was painful viewing for a variety of reasons. As a sports fan, it was just painful with the amount of stoppages. And there were some legitimate injuries in there. I think we can agree on that. But Spain's time wasting, they were starting it very early. Let's just say that. Now, FIFA have tried to counter that by just keep adding minutes on at the end. So there was 14 minutes of added time. That's not stopping the time wasting. Teams are still doing it. I can't see why FIFA can't do what rugby league and rugby union and ice hockey do, where if there's a stoppage in play, the clock stops, the whistle's blown. Do it that way. People have been crying out for that for years. Apparently people want to go the other way and keep adding extra minutes on, which is not the way to deal with it. But Spain did their time wasting at points in the second half. Now the penalty. Now this is where we need clarification on what is deliberate and accidental handball. Back in the day, it was very, very clear. If it was an accidental handball, you had an indirect free kick in the box. If it was a deliberate handball, it was a penalty. The length of time, which is about 5 minutes, wasted on a VAR check for that, if we've seen ball hits hand penalty, I don't see why we need 5 minutes of our lives wasted, which added to the 14 minutes at the end of play. It was a lengthy VAR check. Yes, the ball hits her hand. She is trying to block the attacker's run or make a challenge. It is not a deliberate handball. Now, until VAR was brought in, that was definitely an indirect free kick. And the referee's in line with it and doesn't give anything. The referee has a clear view of that incident. So The fact the referee missed the handball completely and waves play on, I would have said that's an indirect free kick. In the end, it is a penalty. Now, we need clarification on handball, but the FIFA keep changing the rules on handball every year. There's going to be another review on handball, no doubt. Just either you get rid of that grey area of accidental or deliberate and just say handball. I mean, when was the last time you saw an indirect free kick in the box? You see it maybe once, twice a year at best for an accidental handball. I believe a back pass is also classed. If the goalkeeper handles a back pass, that is also classed as an indirect free kick in the box. Again, when do you see that? It's in the rule book somewhere, but with the constant definition changes, we lose it in translation. Now, Hermoso steps up for the penalty. It's a poor penalty, but Mary Earps has pulled off a string of good saves today. That's a very good penalty save. She could have gone the wrong way. It was a comfortable save. But then the momentum swings a little bit. But England then get desperate. And there's a lot of who fit long, put the centre back up front. I mean, I think tactically England got it wrong from the first whistle with their selection. Lauren James should have started. They looked better when Lauren James was on the field for, pace in possession and actually moving the ball. But yeah, there is a momentum swing there. I mean, if that penalty goes in, I think England probably give up the way they were playing. They were completely outclassed. They lost the midfield battle. But it does give a momentum swing. But it's not enough. There's not enough up front. Russo comes off at half time. England's not brought in until very late on. Can't really make an impact. There isn't a focal point for about 35, 40 minutes up front, which is a mistake. They go to a back four on the tactics, and then they keep making tactical changes. And in the end, we've got two centre-backs up with England up front, which that's desperation play, that is. England run out of ideas. And that is what happens when you take out Beth Mead, Fran Kirby from your squad. When you take out those players, so Fran Kirby can drop into the midfield and Beth Mead can interchange on both wings. When you take out two players like that, who did have a massive positive impact on the team last year, and you could see with the combinations they developed with their teammates and the pass and move and the pace they added on the ball, you take them out of that side and you change the formation and you change the tactics, it had a noticeable impact, and they didn't adapt well to it. Spain, you have to give them credit. They've learnt well from the men, haven't they? With their time wasting and their cynical fouling. But they had a game plan, and it was to dominate possession, to frustrate the opposition, and frustrate the opposition into a mistake which leads to the goal. Spain could have had more. Mary Earps is a very, very good goalkeeper for the women's game. They could have had a lot more. And if it's not for Earps, they could have been 4 or 5. England didn't create enough, didn't test the inexperienced Spanish goalkeeper who's only had 7 games this entire season, 3 at club level, 4 for the Spain national side, didn't test an inexperienced goalkeeper. And so, quite fairly, they lose. So there we go. But I will say this. There seems to be a new order in the women's game. Germany and the US aren't dominating anymore. It's very obvious the power shift has now happened. Obviously, Japan have got in there with their World Cup win several years ago. But now we're seeing England and Spain. We're seeing new nations win titles. So the US and Germany aren't dominating. They both had really poor World Cups. Germany go out the group stage for the first time, and the US didn't progress very far into the knockout stages. So it is very noticeable that there is a shift in the balance of power in the women's game. And it's very, very noticeable the direction the women's game is taking, becoming more competitive. Look at all the new nations that reached the later stages. I mean, Australia reaching the semi-final for the first time. There is a clear shift in the direction of the women's game being more competitive, which is refreshing. On the handball thing, I think FIFA need to either clarify handball was handball, there is no deliberate or accidental anymore, or go back to what they had before. If it's accidental, indirect free kick. If it's a deliberate handball, it's a penalty, or a direct free kick, because the referee's in line with that. The fact you need VAR to tell the referee there's a hand in there when she's clearly let it go is worrying. On the time wasting thing and adding time on the games, if players stopped, stop the clock. Do what rugby union, rugby league do. If the players stop the clock. And you get rid of all this pointless 14 minutes at the end of games, which is completely unnecessary on the players and the fans. But that's my view on things. Spain, better side win on the day. And there we go. That's the Women's World Cup done and dusted. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below. And I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.